Welcome to Neverfail's technical presentation on effortless ransomware recovery. In this video, we will review the following. We're going to give you an introduction to Neverfail's approach for ransomware recovery. We will show you how to harden a continuity engine deployment for ransomware. We will simulate a ransomware attack. And finally, we will show the recovery process using continuity engine. So let's get started. Neverfail has been protecting mission-critical applications for over 2 decades. And in the area of continuous availability for BCDR, we realize that times change and so do challenges facing modern IT organizations. We know that at the end of the day, most organizations are looking to ensure the operations continue. The uptime is maintained regardless of what happens. Here at Neverfail, we know getting to 5 nines is a real challenge. And in many cases, it's a trade-off between business objectives, mainly uptime, versus cybersecurity. Neverfail now helps our customers in 3 areas: continuous availability, sustained uptime, effortless ransomware recovery. These 3 areas can have a huge impact on uptime. Neverfail's approach is different. Notice under continuous availability, it provides intelligent application-aware failover with real-time replication, with recovery in 30 to 90 seconds, with near 0 RPOs, which means literally either milliseconds to a second or 2, with local and remote recoverability. And we've been doing this for 2 decades. Also in the area of sustained uptime, Continuity Engine enables in-motion application patching. In this case, we are able to patch systems while the application continues to be operating for end users. It reduces downtime from hours to 30 to 90 seconds, 0 downtime during patching of passive nodes, and you don't have to trade security for uptime, and it achieves sustainable 5 nines of uptime. And the purpose of this presentation, we're going to focus in on effortless ransomware recovery. With a proven architecture, easy orchestration, and reliable data rollback, Continuity Engine provides immediate recovery of data and mission-critical applications, not in days and weeks, but in minutes. No more are you held hostage during ransomware attacks, and so you're able to continue operations. Now, cybersecurity and BCDR are not mutually exclusive. You need to have a strong cybersecurity and BCDR posture to ensure that if your plan A or risk mitigation efforts fail, you have the means of recovery. In fact, a good cybersecurity posture begins with strong policies and procedures with controls in place for enforcement. This includes antivirus tools, systems to protect privileged identities and intrusion detection, just to name a few. Then you need to prove those are in place by evidence collection, and from time to time, processes break, so instant remediation is also needed. However, when Plan A fails, that's where BCDR comes in. Cybersecurity frameworks have provisions for BCDR because it's required to have a plan B. Everyone knows even the best mitigation efforts can fail. So emergency preparedness is necessary to recover systems destroyed by ransomware or other server and data corruption events. Neverfail Continuity Engine provides Plan B in several areas related to business continuity. Effortless ransomware recovery is just one. Now let's take a look at how Continuity Engine can accomplish this. Although nothing can absolutely stop a ransomware attack, Continuity Engine's unique architecture, real-time replication, and data protection capabilities make it optimal choice for recovery from ransomware. We are not going to go deep into the architecture, but if you would like more information on how this works, see the video Continuity Engine Solution Overview. For the purpose of this discussion, we will focus on the parts of the architecture that make ransomware recovery effortless. So let me explain a brief overview of the architecture. First, it begins with the clone-based architecture, which isolates the nodes via firewalls, which protects the operating system and binaries on the passive nodes. The failover orchestration ensures that the passive nodes can be, without fail, promoted to active status. Then we layer real-time replication to get the data to the passive nodes in just a few seconds, typically in milliseconds. This is perfect for day-to-day failures, hardware, operating system, application, and networking issues, but you need more for ransomware. With the data rollback module, snapshots are taken on each node in the cluster, providing more shielding from production server infection. This produces recovery points that allow users to go back in time to just before the infection after failover, and your passive nodes now active is operational. All these steps happen in literally just a few minutes, not hours, not days, not weeks. And so once you get to a point where the failover is completed and you've run the data rollback module, you have a fully active secondary with clean data in just minutes. Now, Continuity Engine builds a firewall between each node in the cluster. Only engine replication traffic moves between the nodes. The operating system on the passives are protected using these firewalls. The channel can be hardened so that only IP addresses of the channel can send and receive. That is in addition to the port number restrictions that are already there. Corrupted data can also leak over the channel before the production server is fully infected and rendered useless. So the data rollback module can reverse the protected application data corruption. Notice that there are firewalls between the primary and the secondary server. With the port restrictions and also the IP restrictions, this makes it impossible for ransomware to jump onto the channel. It can only come in through the front door, which is the production active server. Also notice that the secondary, the public interface, is also deactivated. That ensures that ransomware cannot come into the front door of your passive server. With the data rollback module, you can literally roll back to before the time of the infection and then bring your system to active status, and your system is back online. Now, one of the things that we would recommend is that before you do the failover process and the rollback, that you just deactivate the public interface so that when you do your switch over and make the secondary active, that it's not affected by the ransomware. It cannot just jump onto the new active server until the environment is fully cleaned up. So now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about how we harden Continuity Engine for ransomware. And in this video, we're going to go through all the steps that is necessary to add the port number restrictions on top of what Continuity Engine already configures, which is the channel port restrictions. So now we're going to configure the channel IP address restrictions. So we're going to go to the primary first. The primary IP address is 85.144, and the secondary channel IP address is 85.142. Now keep in mind that there is a KB article, How to Configure Continuity Engine Channel. So you can use that as your guide through this. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to terminal into the production server. We're going to verify that we have the right host name and the IP address configuration. So we know that the channel is the 85.144, which is the primary. So what we're going to do is we're going to go and we're going to update the Continuity Engine inbound rules for the channel port, and we're going to add the IP restrictions on this. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up a rule for these IP addresses, starting with the local IP address, which is 85.141, to the remote server, which is 85.142. And then we're going to apply this. And we are now done with the primary server. Notice that we have not lost connection. So we're now going to go and do the same thing on the secondary. So we're going to make sure that we know what the IP address is and the host name. So we have the right one. This is the 85.142, which is our secondary. And now we're going to update the channel rules. And this time it'll be the 185.142, which is a secondary, to 85.141, which is the primary. And then we'll go ahead and save it and apply it. And again, notice we have not lost connection, so we know that the configuration is right. Now what we're going to do is go to the advanced management client, and under the data traffic queues, we can actually see that we have a connected channel. And again, the how to configure Continuity Engine channel port rules to allow only Continuity Engine connections. This is the KB article that you need to do all of these steps. Now that we've hardened our primary and secondary channel, now we can actually simulate a ransomware attack. So the next step will be to run a ransomware simulation. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to run through a ransomware simulation. We're going to select our primary server, which is the 2K19 file server. On the data tab, it shows a directory that we are replicating between the primary and secondary that will be represented by the ransomware simulation software. And so the technology we're using is known before, and it's a ransom simulation software. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into terminal into our production server, which is the 2K19FS. And again, with the advanced management client, you can see the directory that we're replicating. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go a little bit into more detail of the data sets that we're replicating. So this is the clean data. As you can see, this is a Word document. This is a PNG. This is a text file. And this is a Office file. All right, and this is our simulation software known before ransom. So this gives us different types of encryption scenarios that we're going to go through. We're going to actually detail 3 of these. So as you can see here under the bottom, you have multiple directories that have different types of scenarios in them. So we're going to actually detail 3 of these. So now we're going to run the simulation against a directory, all these directories. Okay, we're done with our simulation. Now what we're going to do is we're going to take a couple of these, actually 3 of these, and we're going to detail. So the first one is going to be in 10 -tests directory. And then this one where it replaces the data with some type of warning message. The second one we're going to do is out of the 17 directory, it's insider encryptor. This means that it's going to provide encryption, and it'll encrypt all the data, hiding the old information. And the third one is actually the injector, which means that it takes the files, encrypts them into legitimate, using a legitimate process and hides them so you can't get access to them. Notice that all of the source files are now a different extension and they are fully encrypted. All right, now going back to the engine management service, we're going to log in and we're going to see the status of the cluster today. And it should be fully synchronized, which it is. It's replicating, and of course the data is there. Now let's take a look over on our secondary. So secondary should have the same information, including the ransomware simulated data. Notice that we have the replacement information. That was our scenario 1. And then scenario 2 showed that the source files were completely encrypted and renamed. And then source 3 is the removal of the general text and then replacement with encrypted data. So now we have a fully synchronized primary and secondary server. Now that we've completed the simulation and have encrypted data replicated across the cluster, now what we're going to do is show how Continuity Engine can provide effortless recovery of the data on the secondary server. Okay, now we're going to start our recovery process. So as we had in the previous video, we showed the 2K19 file server. And of course, the data sets that were corrupted are still corrupted. And the primary is still active. So now what we're going to do is we're going to go into the data rollback module. And as you can see here, we actually have a snapshot that was before our encryption. So we have a baseline to restore to. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that the secondary's public interface is disconnected from the network. This is a safety precaution. So when we actually restore the data and bring the server back online, we don't have the risk of ransomware reinfecting the secondary server. We're just going to take it offline temporarily. Now what we're going to do is we're going to power off the infected production server, the primary, the 2K19 file server. And then we're going to watch the events pile up here to tell us when this thing is done. And the channel is completely disconnected. So the channel is now disconnected. And now we're missing heartbeats. Okay, so now we have a passive secondary, which is now ready for the data rollback module to be executed. So we're going to take the last snapshot we took on this secondary. Notice that it says restart application and replication after the rollback has happened. So that's what we're going to do. And we've initiated our restore process. Now keep in mind that the secondary is fully firewalled from the primary. So the operating system is intact. It's fully clean. There's no virus or no ransomware there. And now you're going to see the restore process in action. Okay, now we can see that the data is beginning to be restored back to normal again. We have the PNG that's back to normal, and our text files are back to normal. And now, once the environment is clean, we can actually bring back this file server onto the production network by just enabling the interface. And now, as you can see, Continuity Engine has brought it back to active status, and it has the original IP address. So this is really our process for data recovery when ransomware strikes the production servers. Okay, so now let's kind of summarize the process, and then what we've learned from this discussion. So from a process perspective, the first thing you're going to do is you're going to disconnect the public network from the secondary. You're going to wait until Continuity Engine stops trying to fail over to the secondary. This is due to the fact that the secondary public interface has been disabled. We're going to run the restore process to restore the data. Engine will automatically restart all of the application services. And when it's safe, you can reconnect the secondary back to the public network, and then finally you're done. So this is a very straightforward process that is very easy to implement. And then when you actually get ransomware, depending on how much data there is in the snapshot, this should only take either seconds to just several minutes to actually complete, but it just depends on how much data there is. So now let's kind of recap what we've learned from this discussion. First, Neverfail's unique architecture and orchestration are optimal for ransomware recovery for the most critical applications. The hardening of the channel reduces substantially the risk of ransomware propagation between the different nodes in the cluster. Ransomware will quickly propagate corrupted data between the nodes of the cluster because it is the protected data, and we have real-time replication in place. Continuity Engine will fail over to a safe firewalled operating system on the secondary at the push of a button. So this can, once it starts, it's fully automatic, and as we showed here, it doesn't have a lot of overhead. The data rollback module restores data post failover within just a few minutes. So not hours, not days, not weeks. They say the average time for recovery in the United States is 5 to 7 days. With Continuity Engine, you don't have to now worry about the recovery process. It's a second thought. Worry about cleaning up the environment, figuring out who actually did it and what happened. You don't have to worry about the recovery process. Continuity Engine covers you in that area. And then finally, you have the tertiary option, which is a 3-node configuration, which is fully firewalled and can be a second passive, which gives you a C plan. So if the secondary gets corrupted, maybe something was missed on the production network when it was actually plugged in after the failover process. Just remember, in a tertiary deployment or a 3-node configuration, 1 active, 2 passives, you can roll back on the tertiary and also bring back that server back online with the exact same process that we showed you in this video. So we want to thank you for joining us today. We hope that you've learned a lot from this. If you would like more information about how Continuity Engine can help you in different areas of your business with continuous availability, ransomware recovery, of course, as part of this, and also how you can do real-time patching of your production systems without taking down your production applications, certainly getting you to 5 nines of operation.